But ever since we got that breakout, I was saying this looks like a major trend change to me. And the definition of an uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. And the previous swing low in gold was 1780. As long as we hold above 1780 on any pullbacks, that's going to make a higher low.
And back with us today is our good friend Steve Penny from Silver Chartist. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet, Elijah. Thanks for inviting me back. It's always fun to speak with you.
It's great to speak with you. What are you seeing in silver at the moment as well?
Yeah, so if I were looking to accumulate right here, which I am, I buy physical metal every single month. Silver is presenting a much, much better value proposition than gold right here, right now, even though I think gold is going much higher. And let me find a nice looking chart here. This is the weekly chart for silver. And this chart looks very constructive. It is yet to have its big move. As we all know, gold has broken out to a new all-time high in 2020. Well, silver has not done that yet. And historically, whenever gold breaks out to a new all-time high, silver follows suit. And the previous high in silver was up around $48 in 2011. So look, zeroing in here on the shorter term chart, you see this bullish arc pattern that's forming above the 200-day moving average. We're also approaching the apex of a triangle pattern. So what I'm looking for in silver, and this is my baseline scenario over the short term, I think we move higher before consolidating and pulling back. So what I'm looking for is a run up towards maybe 28.50, somewhere in that region. Maybe we tap $30 resistance before consolidating. And then once we punch through $30 silver, I think $50 happens faster than many people think. But, the big hurdle to get through on silver is $30. Here's a daily chart for silver, and I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, Elijah. And this will put the daily action in a little bit more perspective. So here's the 200-day moving average here in yellow. And then this triangle pattern. Anyone who looks at charts is probably going to see this triangle pattern. I like real obvious patterns. And the apex of this triangle pattern is going to be reached no later than next week on the 13th of April. Let me get rid of that little green circle so you can see it more clearly. So, as today's price action, I would say, yeah, it gets us closer to a breakout. Once we get above this red line here, the path of least resistance becomes a rally towards 27.50, and above there you've got 28.50 and 30. So if we break up and out of this triangle pattern, that's where I think we move up towards 30 before a more meaningful consolidation.
Now, before I let you go, I did want to kind of come back to the gold and silver markets. If you want to reiterate for our viewers what they should be looking out for in those markets.
I think strategy is more important than short-term predictions. So what I'm looking for is a couple of scenarios here. So we're hovering above 1920 support in gold. There's two ways that consolidations can play out, with time or with price. That's the way overbought conditions can be worked out. So if 1920 support holds, I can see us grinding sideways for just maybe another month or two, or even longer, a couple months. But we don't see the price sell off. Now, if we get a sharp pullback down towards 1820 or thereabouts, that would be more painful in the short term, but it would probably mean that the correction ends quicker. So personally, I would prefer to see that sharp pullback and then more of a V-shaped recovery as opposed to the sideways grind for a couple months. But those are two scenarios I'm looking at. But regardless, I think downside risk is minimal relative to the upside potential over the next year or two in gold and silver.
And that's what we've talked about many times in the past, is it seems like for both gold and silver, the downside risk is very minimal, but the upside potential is very high. And especially if you're holding physical metal, it's easier to hold on to that than, if you're just trading futures or trading ETFs. You have the physical metal, it's in your possession, it's wealth. You see it as, and even if the spot price falls, you still have something of real wealth in your hands.
Absolutely. And first of all, I think of it as insurance policy. And, there's some metal I'm just never going to sell, even no matter what the price does. That's my insurance policy. I plan to leave it to my kids and hopefully to their children and their children's children. But there are brief periods in the cycle where you can not only preserve your purchasing power, but grow it exponentially in precious metals. And, silver and gold are presenting fabulous opportunities here, especially besides what's going on in the monetary system and debasement of currencies and geopolitics, just the other risks that haven't really been a factor in previous bull cycles, like cyber attacks. That's not something the world was worried about in the 70s bull run. And now you can't go a day without hearing about the potential for a cyber attack. Well, if there's a cyber attack, you're going to want some physical metal. And if the banking system is temporarily closed down, these are risks that are very real now. And just add to the bullish case for, the case for owning some physical metal stored outside of the banking system.
All right. Well, Steve Penny, thank you so much for your time today. Before we let you go, where can our viewers find you, and any last thoughts you had?
Where people can find us, at Silver Chartist on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way. We have a public Twitter account. We also do a free weekly newsletter that goes out every Sunday. We're working on developing a new app. There's certain things I like about social media, but certain things I can't stand. Obviously the control and third-party censorship. So we're creating our own Silver Chartist app, which is just going to be a nice community for Silver Chartist members to encourage each other alongside one another as we work towards achieving our goals, and without any kind of third-party censorship from Twitter. So, that's exciting. That's coming down the pike. SilverChartistLiberty.com is a place to check out our weekly newsletter. And we do have a low-ticket premium option as well, if you'd like to check that out.
Fantastic. Steve, once again, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.